Hi, I'm very happy and excited to be sharing lessons from with you today. And today I'm sharing lessons from John 6. Now, the later part of John 6 reminded me just how important it is to read the Bible and read it often and try to understand it as well. The I've most likely read this verse or this chapter before, but there were things that came through to me as a fresh revelation. And I've always known about Jesus, the bread of life, but now I've seen him truly as the bread of life. Now, it was obvious from the passage that there were people, some of his disciples, that were following him for whatever reason. They didn't really truly believe. Many people followed him to be fed. It seemed, perhaps with bread, because remember that he just came out of the back of feeding a multitude of over 5,000 men, minus women and children. So think about it. Even in today's economy, they're like, there's this guy that just multiplies bread. Okay, I'll follow him, right? But these people who just follow to be fed, whether physically or spiritually or whatever, they lacked understanding of the miracles and the signs of the wonders. They just took them as, took them at face value. For some, that's all they wanted. They didn't really just want anything else. They probably didn't want bread. They just wanted miracles. They just wanted to be healed or to be made whole or to get answers to their questions or deliverances for their infirmities and so on. They lacked true understanding. And in verse 31, we find out that there are people who actually believed that it was Moses who gave the children of Israel manna in the wilderness and not God. So I thought about that and put that as a parallel. How about there were people here who were following Jesus because they thought he could give them bread, the way Moses gave bread to the Old Testament, their Old Testament ancestors. Now, moving on to the part where Jesus was talking about himself when he said that his flesh was true food and his blood was true drink. It must have sounded really crazy to those people. And not just because he was talking about, their minds would probably have been about eating physical flesh and drinking blood, but then also because they knew him. So imagine knowing someone and the person is telling you, this is what, I am. And that's, but let's just be real. It was a very hard pill to swallow, hearing those words, which were like nothing that they've ever heard before. I try to put myself in the shoes of the disciples or the people listening at the time, and I had to admit to myself that I too would have struggled with understanding somebody telling me to eat their flesh and drink their blood. I'd have probably had a hard time accepting that message. But before I could feel bad with myself, verse 44 comforted me. It says, "For no one can come to me unless the Father who sends me draws them to me." So I understood that I believe, and probably you believe, because I had allowed myself to be taught by God, and I'd put aside my human sensibilities and my human logic and my rationalization to say, oh, this is what it is, and just allowed God to truly teach me. The disciples that deserted Jesus were very set on their human sensibilities, because remember, he says that when he said this, many people, some of his disciples, many of them actually deserted him. In their mind, they're like, no, this can't make sense, right? And they didn't truly believe. Perhaps that they had become disciples out of intrigue. They were intrigued by the things that he was doing and the things that he was saying, but they didn't really believe. And they didn't have enough faith in him. And so, which is why when things got real, they were like, deuces. They truly couldn't come to him or believe him unless the Father had given them to him. That's what it says in verse 65. And I actually underlined that in my Bible because it was almost as if this was the first time I was seeing it. So when you find, so I thought about it, there's some people that you talk to and they just don't have faith. They just don't have faith, and it's just not something that they can ever comprehend. And I thought, what if they don't believe because the Father hasn't given them to Jesus? Perhaps maybe just not yet. Who knows? And then in the 12 disciples that stayed and walked with Jesus, probably stayed because at some point they probably gave up their human beliefs because they had seen too much. From working closely with him, they had seen too much and experienced firsthand the things that he could do. And so in their mind, they're like, yeah, human, logic is not going to work here. But more importantly, I think it was also because the Father had given them to Jesus. Yes, all 12 of them, even Judas, the betrayer. We'll come to that. Anyway, here's my hashtag getting to know God lesson. Now, the Trinity is a very complex concept for people to grasp. But it is clear from this chapter that the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit all have distinct roles to play. Jesus, God's Son, submits to the Father's plan, and we're dependent on that plan. That is all. The whole plan with Jesus is the whole plan of the Father with Jesus was because of us, right? Our salvation starts from the Father. He's the one who draws us, and he uses the Holy Spirit as a means to draw us, just as the Son is meant to redeem us. But it all starts with the Father's plan, and he is working it out through all the persons of the Trinity. So they all have a part to play, but then they are all still God. So I don't know. For some people who struggle with this, perhaps do a bit of research. And if you go to the Bible recap.com, there are articles and links to there are links to articles that speak more about the Trinity. Perhaps read some and get some understanding. I hope that will help you, and I hope this has blessed you in some way, and I look forward to sharing with you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day. Bye.